Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Arnis Luks here at the Freedom Forum, and I'd like to welcome Yves Potvin from Canada. Welcome, Yves.
Yes, hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Now, Yves, you're a member of the Pilgrims of St Michael, and in particular, I want to just cut across to your website here, and it shows a particular subject that I'd like us to discuss today: how to apply social credit locally. And in regard, it's essentially about a simple system to exchange goods and services for communities. So I think it's most important that we just bring up the title just once more, and that is applying a social credit money system locally. That's the title, and that's what we'd like to talk about today. So, Eve, you have the floor.
Yeah, okay. Yes, this particular local money system, I guess you know, it's on our website. Anybody can take a look at it. And the one behind this local money system is a friend of ours by the name of François de Cimental,
Mm-hmm.
and he's Swiss,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a very good man. He's a former banker, as a matter of fact, worked for prominent banks,
Mm-hmm.
and his family is in Switzerland. They have history there,
Mm-hmm.
and very nice gentleman. Speaks a few languages,
Mm-hmm.
but when he teaches this local money system, it's
Mm-hmm.
because it's been tried before
Okay.
and used on a local money system. I don't think you can do it on a national money idea
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, because it, like I said, it's more communities of maybe up to 1,000 people, let's say
Okay.
500 to 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Many villages in Switzerland that
Mm-hmm.
work like that because they have those systems in the villages, and they're able to make them work the way they like.
Yeah.
So it's an accounting system. It's a very simple system,
Mm-hmm.
and the people can't cheat on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really cheat on it because what happens is when they set up a local money system, people have a hard time understanding it at first
Mm-hmm.
because there's a dividend involved,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and people are. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know if people know that they're owed something in life.
Mm-hmm.
Australia has been building for hundreds of years. Canada, United States, we have gathered uh, many wealth,
Mm-hmm.
and the production is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a certain wealth, but when you talk about a dividend,
Mm-hmm.
people are not scared, but they feel guilty about getting this dividend. And Mr. De Cimental says very simply, just write $100 under the dividend line
Mm-hmm.
and start dealing with it. So he has a bunch of people that just to give ideas or to make an experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
People are in a hall,
Mm-hmm.
and then they elect five or six uh, people to belong to the committee kind of thing. You have a bank manager, you
Mm-hmm.
have a uh, and so they all get a job, and then François Cimental shows how to make it function.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the card,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the dividend, for some reason, they've given $100 to different people in different countries,
Mm-hmm.
and to show them how it works, and they feel bad. But where are you going to get this money? Why do I get $100?
I,
They
I
have a
find
hard time.
I find that extraordinary because if you were a shareholder in a company, you would automatically receive dividends if the company is profitable. And yet, as the nation goes, you look at what we produce in roads and transport systems and infrastructure, water systems, power generation, telecommunications, gas networking, oil facilities, all these sorts of things add up to an enormous asset that's there. And in industry, you're issued with a dividend if the company is going okay. And yet our financial system says that our countries are broke. They're broke. And so it really is it's essentially turning the natural observation, go outside and have a look. It's just you see this vast amount of everything that's there, and yet the financial system says you're living beyond your means, you're broke, you're bankrupt, you're this, you're that, and you go outside and there's industry forever. So the idea of a dividend, it certainly isn't foreign to my mind, and especially when you look at the cultural inheritance. The original lever, the original lever, the lever that lifted the first rock, that was the first mechanical device. And of course now you've got giant fans for wind turbines, whether you like them or not. The fact is they are nothing more than levers. And you've got giant gas turbines and you've got jet engines. They're exactly the same thing. They're levers. It's just that you might have multiple levers around a disc, and they're all causing a movement. And that, of course, converts that movement, that energy in that movement, to useful work. So to me, my mind's eye says that no, there's a vast amount of material wealth, and we are producing inordinate amounts of value in our community. But the financial system says otherwise, and I think it's wrong. Anyway, Yves, back to the local money system.
Yeah, even the natural products, the minerals, the water, the
hmm
sun,
hmm
it's all energy, it's all wealth. It was given to us.
That's right.
No one has the right, no one has the right to keep it for themselves or block it for somebody else not to have.
Yeah.
So we have these wealth. It is amazing that people uh, we we kind of make a formula of job equals money.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do. Money has nothing to do with jobs.
No.
It has in a way, but not the way that people think.
I know.
We
That's
have the
right.
elections coming up. We have the elections coming up pretty soon in Canada. I don't know
hmm
about yours,
hmm
but we have the elections, federal elections, and there's 10 provinces,
hmm
and they elect their the top of their
Representatives. Yep.
parties,
hmm
and their main platform says we are going to create jobs. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and just leaving alone the dividend kind of thing or the share of this country.
That's right.
It's mind-boggling
hmm
that people still buy the idea. Oh,
hmm
you got to have 100% employment.
hmm hmm
And even if you had 100% employment, you still couldn't buy everything that because and I could, you make $15 an hour here now, $14 an hour.
hmm
I mean, that's poverty line.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's not a very good.
No.
So we coming back to the local money system. The local money system will fill the gap
hmm
between salaries and the actual end of production. The amount of production, the GDP
Yeah.
is in their little local thing will fill the gap. At least it'll help fill the gap between the salaries that are earned
hmm
and the production or the goods that are available
hmm
in that local.
Yeah.
It's it's uh, it's kind of a freedom. And this money system that I'm
hmm
talking about, you can use any money system. You can make your own dollars. If
Yeah.
people are honest, they'll be able to use that. You make IOUs or whatever,
hmm
as long as they trust it, and then people are honest and they're charitable towards each other. They're not gonna cheat.
hmm
So you just bring that out. But the card, Mr. De Cibanta said, when you look at the card, you don't feel like, how we like money. We have to
hmm
have money in our pocket and we like it, like I got 20 here, I got 50, 60. We
hmm
kind of feel comfortable
hmm
having that money because now I can buy this, I can get my gas, to me, it's not really love, but I have to
Yeah.
have it, right? We
Yeah.
all have to have it.
hmm
But the card seems like it's not something that you get. Like it's like money, you love money, but the card, it's an accounting system. It's not
hmm
something that you look at it and it's just that's money.
hmm
So in that way, it's not as materialistic.
hmm It doesn't have as significant a material form. I agree, but bear in mind, financial system. is about 97% is just computer blips. It's just recordings of transactions. That's all it is. Only 3% of money in circulation is in the form of notes and coins. 3%. So if you've got a credit card, you use that as money. Well, in this instance, what Siebenthal is saying is that if you agree with someone that you're going to trade something, you're going to actually exchange for a value, a numerical value. You're going to exchange something for a numerical value, or you want something for a numerical value. It's an actual action of faith, faithful dealings between the individual that you're buying something from you're buying something from them, and on the basis that your book is a fair and equitable book, and that is that you're not going to run up these huge debts, but you're going to try and work your way through so that the book is in sort of equilibrium. And I think that that to me makes sense. It also takes a lot of pressure off because I run bees and I can use honey as a means of exchange. And quite often I do. If someone's doing a service and I'll say, well, here's a couple of pots of honey for what's going on, and they think, well, that saves me going to the supermarket and buying it, and this looks like pretty good honey, so they're happy to exchange it for some other thing. So to me it makes sense. But exchanging honey if someone doesn't want it, this is where the a barter doesn't work. And so by having a local money system, you can just bring the card out and say, well, okay, I want this, and you're agreeing to sell it, and we can record that transaction on my card and on your card, and then we're at peace. So I think to me, it makes sense that you're always considering being able to exchange surpluses, because I think that that's a valid way to do it. You know, if you've got more time, you're idle, in a sense, you've got time to spare, you can actually be creative and place something out in the market, and even though people don't have money to buy it, they might use the local money system in order to purchase it, and you just work that exchange through. So it's not directly linked like barter, but it is in a form a larger system. But also you made a valid point, Eve, and that was the issue of a dividend. The issue of a dividend, an establishment of a certain amount of credit, in that by coming into the community, there is now an increase, and an increase in what's actually available, and so you receive a dividend. How often is the dividend issued, Eve?
Well, let's say that you have your group. Let's say you
Mm-hmm,
have 200 people in this
mm-hmm,
particular local,
mm-hmm,
and you meet once a month,
mm-hmm,
and you find out after a couple of months how your economy runs. You've experienced the selling and buying and the transfer of
mm-hmm,
the amount of money
mm-hmm,
that you got. So after a month, you said we don't have enough money, So they'll put another $100, or
mm-hmm,
if it's 1,000, it would be
mm-hmm,
1,000.
mm-hmm,
It all depends how much economy you got in that town or that municipality.
mm-hmm,
So you would add a dividend on them. Okay, let's agree. We're all agreed that we're going to give $1,000. Yep. So vote, or whatever, and you put the $1,000 right on the card.
yeah,
It comes from the amount of economy that is in that present town.
yeah,
The
th- th-
like it's worth a certain value, but you don't find that out accurately until after a few months that you've been using this money system. Says, hey, it's good. So you meet once a month, maybe elect a new a president of the bank, or the guy doesn't want to do it, so he transfers so a secretary haven't got time, or they can get paid for it. They
yeah,
get extra money for
extra credits,
they
yeah,
get a dividend plus their
yeah,
pay.
mm-hmm,
So if you have so yeah, you would. But not only that, you have all the tradesmen that are in that town.
mm-hmm,
Some are a carpenter, plumber, electrician, and so on and so forth.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes people cannot afford to pay them in cash,
mm-hmm,
and sometimes there's not maybe enough work or something like that. You
mm-hmm,
could hire that electrician and so on, and you pay whatever you want, $20 an hour. So you work 3 hours, that's $60,
yeah,
and you put it down in this card. I owe you. I paid out $60 and he received $60 on his card.
Yeah. Do you
So
do
that gave them a, go
do
ahead.
you do part payment? We'll say that in this case the electrician worked for 3 hours, but the electrician had certain fixed costs that he had to pay cash for, like cable or switches and things like that. So would the system allow for the electrician to receive cash for those components he had to pay cash for, and then the labour went into the local money system? Would you be able to trade like that?
That could be that he has to buy cash, but the local electrical retailer
Mhm.
maybe deals a little bit with the local money system too. So
Mhm.
you could put a percentage,
Yep.
cash 50% and local money 50% or whatever you agree with.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
You'd be amazed after a while
Mhm.
what apparently there's the economy grows so much that you've really got to think, okay, we can do this, we can do that.
Mhm.
You could probably borrow money at no interest,
Mhm.
and because you want to buy a car
Mhm.
at the local store of the,
Mhm.
but to deal with an other town, this is where the a little problem is because it is a local money system.
Yep.
So until we get the banks out of the way,
Mhm.
it's going to be
Mhm.
it would be hard. But you know what? People find out things after a while,
Mhm.
and they say this is what's happening with our town.
Mhm.
I can maybe mention a comparison because during Benjamin Franklin's time in
Mhm.
the 1800s, I believe, uh, Benjamin Franklin was taking care of the colonies. He had 13 colonies in the States,
Mhm.
and they had no silver, no gold. So he used the colonial script,
Okay. Yep.
and he issued it as they needed it. They
Mhm.
give, oh, you need money? Okay, here it is. Here's your script,
Mhm.
the colonial script, and you did exchange, and the country was flourishing.
Yeah.
Was flourishing
Mhm.
until you went to England
Mhm.
and talked to the government there. Says, "Oh, you're doing well. What are you doing special?"
Mhm.
Well, we issue our own colonial script,
Yeah.
and the banks heard about that. They said, "Oh, no, no, no! You use the silver and the coins and the gold that we have here."
Mhm.
So they give him a small supply. Within a couple of years, the colonies went broke. Everybody was unemployed,
Yeah.
and they blamed it on the tea, the tax on tea or something like that.
That's right. The Tea Party. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So therefore, there is something in the way there.
Mhm.
The banks are owning too much of our world,
Mhm.
so they could give up a little bit,
Yep.
at least to start with.
Yep.
And this would be a good way of complementing the economy in certain locals.
Mhm. Yeah. No, to me it makes sense because what you're doing, I'm getting a bit of feedback. What you're doing is you're running a financial system that is local, autonomous, independent, and they're not actually dominated by the by a banking fraternity overbearing the community. And I think that that's self-reliance because in that community you might have a bloke who's going to do the right thing and another bloke who's going to do the wrong thing, and you're aware of it and you can manage it. In that the bloke who's going to do the wrong thing, when he does the wrong thing, it says, well, okay, you can't be in our system because you can't be, you're not bona fide. You're not doing the right thing. Whereas the bloke that is doing the right thing, well, let's keep going. You're welcome. You're making good products, and they're well worth purchasing, and so it goes around. Yeah, to me it makes sense. I mean, originally, as I understand it, money was issued money was issued to troops, to the pharaoh's troops, in order for them to make claims on the community. That's how money was originally issued, and Pharaoh gave it to the troops, and the community received it, and then they could use that money from the troops, providing a service to the troops, to pay the taxes back to Pharaoh. So to me, it makes sense. But the thing is that in that, what's actually happening is that the state is controlling it, and I don't think that that's right. Whereas if it's back at a local level, it's got nothing to do with the state. It's a local matter. The community are working together. Doesn't need to be auditors. There doesn't need to be taxes. There doesn't need to be anything. It just needs to function as at a rate that the community is sustainable and they find equilibrium in the issue of dividends and the running of the financial system. Yeah, that makes good sense to me. Yeah, very important. Yeah. Mhm.
Well, the my wife especially, she's the from the accounting world.
Mhm.
So when I presented that card to her,
Mhm.
she says, "Oh, gee, we used to use that in the '60s. You know, we can't use that." But now she's a little more understanding, and she
Mhm.
says, "You know what?
Mhm.
This might be something that could save us one day
Yeah.
if you applied something like that."
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't tried it myself. Our job is not to start a local money system.
Mhm.
It's to educate the population
Mhm.
on what you could do
Mhm.
to improve your economy, to improve your the state of your finances and your local. So there's an idea. Run with it. You know,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
have
No.
your own people.
No.
You can
Appreciate.
show them how to do it.
Yeah. I
You can show
appreciate
them how to
that.
do it.
Yeah. I think it's very important because okay, you're presenting a concept. All right, you're presenting a concept in the lesson, but to me, it's very important to see how it works on the ground in the real world with people. Otherwise, it's only a concept. It's just a theory. So, are you aware? You mentioned the Swiss. There are local communities who are running their own money system, and the outcome of that seemed to be quite effective. Is that right? You're actually the Swiss in communities in some of the cantons are actually running their own money system. Is that right, Eve?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it works. And the local money systems I've tried everywhere else in the world. I
Mhm.
can think of Ithaca, New York, for example,
Mhm.
the Ithaca dollar. They've increased their local economy by $2 million a year.
Mhm.
It's a city or town of 29 30,000 people kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
But they weren't without problems.
Mhm.
They had problems here and there. The banks got involved, or the financiers of the town, and so on and so forth. So you'll
Mhm.
always have this little tug of war
Yeah.
kind of thing. But uh, we had some here in Ontario where I live, Peterborough.
Mhm.
They have a local money system, but it's tied in with the credit unions.
Mhm.
So the credit unions is really it's a private bank. That's what it
Yeah.
is,
Mhm.
and so they kind of control it. You buy from the credit union, and they use it in the local. Uh, the people that are part of that group, they can use that money to
Mhm.
save some money on products and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So it's not without problems that
Mhm.
the local money system, because now you're introducing uh, a counterpart or a competition
Mhm.
to the way things are now.
Yeah.
So people are not ready to accept it right away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you know what? We've got to start somewhere,
Yeah.
and to help the economy in wherever we are.
Yeah. No, that makes. Thanks for that, Yves. I must have pressed the silence button. I've got a button here. I must have pressed it. Okay. So the issue to me is that the under the existing financial system, there is a huge increase in debt, and it's irredeemable. It's continuing to escalate, and yet in the if there was a contraction of credit, as in 1929, a restriction of the money supply, this is the very thing that you could actually put in place. That as the thumb screws were being tightened on you, you just established a local money system where the community could continue to trade, and on the basis of that trade, they could keep things ticking over. But where it comes down to it, the problem is if you're saying paying utilities, water, electricity, gas, whatever, council rates, and if you were attempting to purchase energy, as in petroleum or gas or whatever, you'd have to use the existing financial system. So, but if you needed the basics, you needed bread and butter on the table, this might be the thing that just takes the pressure out of the situation is to trade amongst yourselves and in a fair and equitable manner, so that
Yeah.
you can just keep things ticking over. Because to me, the debt levels are not sustainable. The debt levels are
Oh,
not sustainable. You're looking at the trillions. You're looking at hundreds of trillions, nearly 1,000 trillion. I mean, the numbers are just they're telephone numbers, and yet that's the level of indebtedness. And I note that Australia and Canada, the debt levels are now in their trillions for both those countries. So it's extraordinary how the financial system, run the way it is, generates debt. Whereas what you want an economy to do is to record a fair and equitable measure, a system of measuring fair and equitable trading and exchange, so that people who are entitled to a claim, if robots are making everything, advanced control, um, solar energy, the rain, the wind,
oh,
the sun, all these things, they're what's responsible. Even the hydrocarbons that we harvest is an outcome of the of the sun, of the energy of the sun, of gravity, of things like that. That's actually caused the hydrocarbons to be manufactured. And so I find that fascinating, that a dividend can be paid on a share, but a dividend argued by bankers against the dividend, and yet the whole nation is producing. It's constantly producing. It's a false narrative, and I think that it's time that it had its head above water and was given the light of day. The dispensation of a balanced and equitable, in equilibrium financial system. Eves.
yeah. I was just writing a note while you were talking there. Uh, like there's no real money in circulation.
Mm,
There's no real cash in circulation.
mm,
It's pretty well 100% a debt money that we
mhm,
have, we live
mhm,
under.
mhm,
Because the formula that they used was back 100 years ago, whatever,
mhm.
when they started. The rest is all made up of interest
Yeah,
and loans
yeah.
and debts.
Mhm,
So in 1932, uh, the United States, at the Congress level, voted in to accept social credit as their new economy.
mhm,
I don't know if you remember those days. Well, remember reading about those days.
mhm,
But in 1932, the Congress voted, I think it was 256 seats to 60 or something like that,
mhm,
in favor of adopting social credit.
mhm,
So that was something that was going to be tried, and they would run with it. And then they went over to get the Senate to accept it,
mhm.
and the Senate turned it down flat
Yeah,
because it didn't include them. It didn't give them profit. It didn't give them the power that they liked so much.
mhm,
So it's no wonder that today we have a system that is kind of it's really ignorance, because the bankers know that there is a system out there that would help the people.
yeah.
They heard about social credit,
Mhm,
but they dismiss it as soon as they hear that word. They
mhm,
dismiss it
mhm,
because they know it would help the people. They
mhm,
know that it would make the country so beautiful.
mhm,
Yet they choose not to accept that.
mhm,
No, we're not gonna. We want to control the people. We want to be. Uh, I remember seeing a movie back in the well, a few years ago, but it was made in the 1906 or
mhm,
1910 or something like that, and it was called Intolerance,
mhm,
and they showed three different eras of our world,
mhm.
and every one of them is about controlling the world.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and if somebody would like to watch that, it's a little bit like the same theme as 1980 or George
Sure.
Orwell's 1984
Yep, yep,
or
yep.
1984. Yeah,
Mhm,
so it shows a very good uh, kind of a good idea of how come our world is the way it is.
yeah.
Uh, we that's why that's why we have to. Myself, I believe that we have to get help from above
Hmm.
to the Holy Spirit, if you want to call it that
Mm.
way, to help us into deciding different things in life.
Yeah.
We need a happier world. We need to help each other. We have to practice charity. And I keep repeating to some of my family members that love each other, love your neighbor
Yeah.
as you love yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, if you
Hmm.
keep everything for yourself, if you don't kind of share your love with somebody else,
Hmm.
you're not going to survive. It's going to end up being a. I'll put it a different way. Uh, Mrs. Cote Mercier said one time. She said it quite a few times.
Mm.
But she says science
Mm.
or technology, if you want to call it that way, science and technology without the love of your neighbor
Mm.
or the love of God
Hmm.
leads to ignorance.
Mm.
And this is what we have today, the
Mm.
ignorance of people.
Mm.
It would amount to nothing.
Hmm.
They're going to have to, like, put a microchip in us and then put them in jail, put us in jail and control us even more than what they do now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's you're stuck between a rock and a hard place,
Mm. Mm.
kind of thing. So
It's an interesting analogy that you present, Eve, because I see it as essentially two two different philosophies or worldviews. One is I think it was what is that Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson talks about the dominance hierarchy, and the dominance hierarchy, everyone clambering for the top, but the one at the top dominates all below, and it just keeps on going down the thing. Now, I think if you're going to run an industrial project, then the CEO needs to be in charge, and so I have no issue with him being dominant. And if you're going to run a military exercise, then of course the generals have to be in charge. That's the way it is. But between members in a family or in a community, dominance hierarchy doesn't work. It's mutual love and cooperation. Mutual love and cooperation. So, as far as I'm concerned, what Jordan Peterson is saying is wrong. And I'm very clear about that in my mind, because even this discussion, I'm not attempting to dominate you, I'm attempting to understand you, and for between us to come to a clear understanding, to paint a proper picture. And the other is, it's something that's, I remember the words of Christ when he says, before I'll say the words of Christ, I'll get back to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is saying life is suffering. Life is suffering. In his 12 rules for life, it's all about managing your life so you accept your suffering. But I put it to you, the Christian philosophy is about life more abundant. I have come that you might have life more abundant. That's a promise from God Himself, the Christ. I have come that you have life more abundant. Whereas the undoing of that by someone who, if you like, confused Christians consider to be some sort of important person to put on the platform, he's saying that life is suffering. These are totally different points of view, and to me, incompatible. Christianity is about life more abundant, and it's also about freedom of the individual, mutual love and cooperation. Only do to him which you'd have him do to you. It's not about dominating. It's about respecting each other and working that through. So I think it's a very good illustration. A very good illustration. To me, I know he's not a banker, but to me it's a reflection of this confused thinking that we have. We don't actually attempt to understand what Christianity is about, but it's about freedom. That's what it's about. Social credit is about freedom. It's about placing sufficient purchasing power in the hands of the individual so that he can live his own life. He can choose his own utopia, not dominance hierarchy where someone dominates over them. That's totalitarianism. But Christianity or social credit is about freedom. And to me, these are completely different points of view. That's the one is freedom, the other is tyranny. And this bloke Peterson, just to bring him up because I know he's in the airwaves all the time. This bloke Peterson is promoting tyranny, whereas Christianity is about freedom. Anyway,
freedom and hope.
yeah, we're actually, believe it or not, up to 35 minutes, Eve.
Oh,
We're going really well today. Um,
well, that's good.
we can pick this up again,
Yeah.
applying a social credit money system perhaps next week. Do you have any closing comments, Eve?
Well, I just like to explain. I just live the way normal way. I'm not definitely not. Uh, what do you call it? Perfect.
Hmm.
Definitely not. But I try to live my life the way that I think, well, the way social credit kind of works.
Hmm.
So I always look for charity towards my neighbor, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Even if it's just driving,
Hmm.
I lose patience sometimes because there's this old lady that's driving like 20 kilometers an hour and then 80 kilometers, that kind of thing, or make the wrong turn. They don't signal,
Hmm.
and you really have to be patient with these things. They're in their own little world, and they do the best they can, I'm sure.
That's right.
And
Yep.
so,
Yep. Mm.
anywhere in your life,
Hmm.
you got to apply social credit in a
Hmm.
certain way.
Hmm.
Down the bottom of things are uh, economic democracy won't happen unless you have democracy
Yeah.
and you help each other and you
Hmm.
uh, it's not about profit. I That's what the banks believe in.
Yeah.
As long as it brings money in, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
You can kill people and it's going to bring money, so therefore let's run with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I disagree with that. So I hope the world will learn pretty soon. I think we're going to learn because it's getting to a time where people are really going to be under a certain stress, and I think it's meant to be.
Hmm.
It's they foresee it. They foretold it in the Bible. It talks about all the different things that will happen.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not could, it will happen,
Hmm.
and we can see it now by the way things are escalating. The debt. It's how can you work when the debts of the United States apparently all the debts are over $100 trillion.
I know. Yeah.
There's not enough money on earth to pay for hardly any of it.
And
So
the madness of that, of course, is that America is in the history of the world, the most productive nation in the history of the world. They have produced more material abundance, and yet the financial system says that they are destitute and broke. It is a, it is a, it is a completely false narrative. The financial system and the actual productive system, or the real economy. The real economy is one of abundance. I have life. I came that you might have life more abundant. The economic system is demonstrating that, and yet there it is, absolute destitution, desolation, and destitution. And so it's a reflection, if you like, of two different world views, one of fear and one of faith. Yeah, yeah, no, beautiful, no worries. Anything else, Steve, before I shut up
no,
shop?
I'd like to say that I'm happy that I'm doing this because I think if people kind of watch some of these freedom forums
Hmm.
and get different ideas from different people from different backgrounds and so on and so forth, I think they can put something together and say, like this is good, this is true, like
Hmm.
I don't think too many people will disagree with us that there's no problem.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
anyway, I want to thank you very much for having me.
No worries. It's always my pleasure, Eves. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Arnie Luks at the Freedom Forum, and we'll be back again next week with the Pilgrims of St. Michael. Thank you, Eves.
Very good. Bye,
Cheers.
Ernest.
Bye bye.
Bye.